Hello and welcome to episode 323 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and as we said, I think I might have said I thought it was going to go six, but it only went five. But I wouldn't call it a gentleman's sweep because I think the Heat played really, really hard
They did.
and
And
did whatever they could do.
I guess our one Heat talk real quick will be, they show the stats of Jimmy Butler pre-ankle injury and post-ankle injury. And Jimmy Butler refused in the press conference to talk about his ankle, which was sort of refreshing, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was bothering him, he didn't want that to take away from the other team or become the story, which I appreciated on his part.
No, and that team, those two teams, if they played 100 times,
Yeah.
I've said to numerous people, I think the Nuggets would win 92 out of 100.
Oh yeah, and if they both played their best, like in some sort of computer sim, the Nuggets would win 100 of 100 times. Like if you could simulate both, because I just think they're that much more talented. If you could simulate so that everybody played their absolute A game, I don't think the Heat would have won one of those games. So
Yeah, it just hard. I mean, they were absolutely a superior team, and
yeah,
there was nothing Miami could do. And I thought Spoelstra did a great job. I thought the Heat players didn't quit. I thought they played hard. It was just the talent wasn't there.
yeah, and again,
I mean, guys like Stoops, which I thought that he would play better, he didn't. And Gabe Vincent was exposed. So I mean, both those guys are free agents. I don't think either of them will be back next year.
not with the new collective bargaining agreement passed. You can't. Someone will give them. Someone in the league will overpay them a little bit more than the Heat would. But it seems like the Heat are fine. They'll find the next Struess and the next Gabe Vincent
Yeah.
in the G League or over at C's or wherever they find them, because that's what the Heat do.
Well, he has to get a big man, and they've got to get another score.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of I mean, obviously, giant congratulations to Jokic and the Nuggets, and then special shout out. We used to have Magic season tickets, and I really enjoyed watching Aaron Gordon play a lot.
Really a lot. He played really, really well. He was a determining factor.
I mean, he guarded LeBron, he guarded KD, he guarded Jimmy Butler. And I was listening to him post game, and it just, as people pointed out, like, this is the number 4 overall pick. He was supposed to be the Jokic or the Jimmy Butler of his team. And, he accepted another role. And, he just talked about how day one, he and Jokic just got on the same page. They understood what they were doing. And he understood. And again, we talk about Heat culture and understanding your role. We had a whole discussion about that. And, like,
Yeah.
Gordon seems to really understand his, like what he's best at and how to best contribute. And, whenever they needed him to score 20, he scored 20. If they needed him just to play hard defense and get rebounds and, put 5 Jokic layup passes in, that's what he would do. And you could just see that this team was incredibly happy for each other. Even with Jokic and his... Did you watch any of Jokic's post-game celebrations?
Yeah.
He's a very unique individual, right?
I want to go home and see my horses.
Yeah, and when they told him when on the podium that the parade was Wednesday, he looked really disappointed. Like he was expecting a Nintendo
He's
for...
ready to leave that day.
Yeah, it looked like he expected a Nintendo for Christmas and he got socks. Like he had that look on his face of like, wait, what? I have to stay. And then I watched an interview with Malika Andrews, and again, he's got a little bit of that Popovich early Belichick where it's like, when they were talking about horses, he was fully engaged and excited. And then she asked him where his trophy is. He's like, I don't know, we'll find it at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did have that, like, I think, it's the same from when you watch crime shows and the cops always talk about, well, this person didn't react the way you expected them to react. And you did expect maybe a little bit more joy, but Jokic is a very private person and he doesn't seem like he wants to...
His brothers had a good time.
His brothers had a great time tossing Mike Malone up in the air. And, yeah, his brothers are big dudes.
Yeah. As you could well expect.
Yeah. And I didn't know...
It was a great series. I mean, even highly rated. And even though, it wasn't close, but it's still a highly rated series.
Yeah. And again, I think it was the same when... I just thought about this the other day because I've been thinking football a lot, but I was really happy Patrick Mahomes got a second Super Bowl. Because I think he is that great that I don't want the conversation ever to be he only won one. And he's already got his second. And with Jokic, he already had his regular season MVPs. He had historically great stats, whether you're talking about 1980 stats or talking about 2023 analytical stats. Like, he was, clearly one of the best players in the world. And, like, you just wanted him to get that chip so that, his resume is...
And you also wanted people to get to see him play.
Yes.
Denver wasn't on TV.
No. Well, not until 10 o'clock at night.
No, but they weren't a national game anyhow.
No, yeah.
Now, next year, when you see the TV contract come out in August, you watch how many Sunday afternoon games Denver will have this year.
Yeah. And you wonder if, is he sort of the Princeton of the NBA, and that never really caught on in college basketball, but if, Steph Curry obviously, created an entire generation of, high school players and college players that just shoot, 30-foot threes. Do you think, we've seen it, and it didn't really catch on with Magic or Nash, or I guess with Bird or Bill Walton, who we'll talk about later, but like, is passing going to become cool?
I think for big men, yes.
For big men, yes. Okay. Yeah, and
I think you're going to see people emulate what Jokic does. That's what you'll see.
Yeah. And again, I know we've discussed this before too, but like, it was never about being small with small ball. It was about making sure that all the players on the court were skilled. And I think, with Embiid and Jokic and Giannis and Kevin Durant, who's 7 feet tall, like, it was just a matter of the 7-foot tall people catching up to the rest of the league, and now you need to be big again. Because much like with the Warriors, like, you can't go into next season with a small team, right?
Well, I think you have to understand that that you need to be big in a different way.
Yeah.
You need to have a big player that has great court vision that can move.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you need to have. And that's what Jokic is.
Technically the Warriors saw it coming. That's why they drafted Wiseman, and we're so excited to have that first overall pick and get James Wiseman, who just didn't work out. That's what the Suns wanted in DeAndre Ayton.
And they're not all going to work out.
No, they're not. And then I guess, speaking of not working out, a great NBA transition might be to the hottest name on trade destination, and it's not Dame Lillard. It's right here in New Orleans. It's Zion Williamson.
It's Zion, and you're hoping, there'll definitely be a trade. New Orleans is ready to move on.
Yeah.
So you're going to get somebody's going to take a flyer on him. They're not going to overpay for him because he hasn't demonstrated the value.
No, but
So it's got to be a situation where you think you can, A, keep him healthy, and B, keep him focused.
Yeah. And he played 26 games last year and averaged almost 30 points a game. He's about to turn 23.
He has the ability.
Yeah, and, with all the Victor Wembanyama talk this year, like, Zion was the guy after LeBron that was the generational talent. And you see it when he's on the court. But as we talked a little bit off air, too, or off air, it sounds weird, that's a radio term, I'm not sure if that's the same thing. Off podcast record button.
Offline,
whatever. Yeah. But this may be a case where, hopefully, I think as a basketball fan, and it's just a fan of humans in general, that you want to see people reach their potential. You hope wherever he goes, he does. And you can't hold New Orleans accountable, because maybe this was just a bad time in his life, a bad fit, and both teams just need a fresh start. And even if Zion, and there's no guarantee that if Zion had stayed, he would have gotten it together here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, whether it's Portland or Charlotte or one of the teams on the top 5, this top, and I guess Houston is interested. Every team is probably interested in Zion.
Yeah, you'd be interested in taking a flyer on him, depending on what you got to give up.
Yeah. And again, you wouldn't give up, the Spurs aren't going to give up Victor Wembanyama for him. But
No.
if you're giving up Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson and an Anthony Simons or whichever guy Charlotte has on their bench and maybe a future swap, like, it's worth it. Because as good as Scoot Henderson is, as good as Brandon Miller, has been and could be, despite his tournament struggles, like, they don't have Zion's ceiling. Despite all of Zion's, only playing half the games since he's been in the league.
Yeah.
Including only half the games at Duke. And then
So you can put Zion on any team you want. Where are you going to put him?
I'd like to see him in Portland alongside Dame Lillard
Okay.
and see if he can, And again, I'm sure New Orleans knows, and I mean, you can have the best coaching staff, you can have the best trainers, you can find people around him who, you know, teammates who volunteer to hang out with him or spend time with him or mentor him or just be his friend. But there's enough. I mean, clearly eating and working out and keeping his body in shape are part of his struggle, right?
We can assume that, yeah.
I think you can assume that, yeah. I mean, you heard about drinking a 2 liter of Coke every day and some other stuff that whether that that seemed to be leaked from the New Orleans camp, that all this stuff was happening. And like, the best trainers, the best knowledge, like none of that, you can't be around Zion Williamson 24 hours a day. So ultimately, this is something he is going to have to, you can have the best support system and safety net in progress, but he's a grown up adult who's going to be alone at times. And it's something he's either going to get or he's not going to get. And like we talked about, the current MVP and world champion Jokic, who ironically was both chubby and his draft pick was during a Taco Bell commercial in the second round.
Yeah. First pick.
He got it together, and he's not the athlete Zion is, but he clearly got in great shape. He doesn't get tired in games, and And then you look at skinny Luka, who seems like maybe he's given up the sweet tea, or he's found some stevia or some monk fruit or something this year, because he looks pretty motivated right now, right?
We'll see. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't go where they thought they were going to go, and he wants to win. So we'll see.
Where do you want Zion? Of semi-realistic destinations, I suppose.
Well, if you can let me put him anywhere I want to put him.
Yeah, put him anywhere you want to put him.
I'm going to put him in Miami.
Okay. I mean, that would be, I don't know I don't think they're taking Tyler Hero and some change for Zion, but yeah, I mean, you look at what they...
if I put him anywhere, I'd put Miami and see if heat culture can impact him. He needs a strong, like a Pat Riley. That's what it is for me.
It's true, because the New Orleans organization is not like going to the Celtics or the Lakers or the Heat, who I think are in that conversation now of like, just... There's a tradition. There's, it's the New Orleans, they were the Jazz, then they were something else, now they're the Pelican. I mean, they don't have the storied history or the coaches or the great players they can run out in front of you. The alumni, they can't bring those things out. The championship rings, the banners. So
if you're going to move Dame out of Portland, where are you going to put Dame?
It's a good question. Because you got to think of contenders, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're Boston, do you want to stick with the Tatum Brown combo, or would you be if you could get Anthony Simons and Dame? Because Lillard's obviously a lot older than Jaylen Brown. Like, would you do that trade?
Possibly, yeah. I'd think about it, but possibly. I wouldn't eliminate it offhand.
Yeah, I know Dame has said he would never want to go to Boston for whatever reason. He seems very anti-Boston. I've heard New York, but I feel like him and Brunson in a backcourt is just him and C.J. McCollum 10 years later on some level. I think Brunson's better than C.J. McCollum, but, I don't know where that gets you. Like, I'd like to see him on the stage where he gets to compete, but I don't know where that would be, of teams that could realistically, pull the trigger and bring him over. I mean, Miami is the destination apparently he wants to go to, behind the scenes. But again, if you're Portland, are you giving up, your guy, your franchise guy, if, the centerpiece of that trade is Tyler Hero?
Well, no, that couldn't be the centerpiece. That'd be some other thing.
Right, it would be Tyler Hero and some draft picks and, but if you look at the Heat, like, if you're the Heat, you can't give up Bam and you can't give up Jimmy, right? So...
You still got a window, and you got to add a scorer and a big man.
Right. And then Bradley Beal, apparently the word is, he's available because the GM came out publicly and said he has permission to rebuild, but they don't think it would be a large return for Bradley Beal.
No, they think he'll be a bargain.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm not sure Bradley Beal could even be the second best player on your team. I know he's got the physical skills and abilities, but he's been in the league for 11 seasons now. And he's made it, whereas Dame, I feel like it's been, some playoff runs and some hard competition where Bradley Beal seemed, and again, nothing wrong with this, it happens in every profession. He seems very happy to score 25 points and pick up a giant paycheck every week.
Maybe he ends up in Phoenix.
Yeah, maybe.
He doesn't have to be the guy. Doesn't have to be the second guy.
And as we talked offline, I really want to see Chris Paul go to Philly. I've decided, even though I don't like Philly, I think he would be really good for Joel Embiid. So,
yeah, I could see that. That's one I could see that one playing out the way it is.
Or technically, I think if you could manage his minutes, and I'm not sure if he's like Kawhi, where it doesn't really matter how many minutes you manage. Like at some point, he's just going to break down. But another place that probably can't afford him, but despite having Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, I think if he would go play with Giannis, I think that would make him a really interesting team. Somebody that could run the half-court offense and maybe really help. Because, that was discussed 5 years ago, but I think that could be a really nice fit for Giannis. A guy that can make mid-ranges and maybe get him the ball in some really good places, I think would be, from a basketball standpoint, I would like to see him there. But it seems like it's going to be a very interesting NBA draft because...
Yeah, and I think at least one of these pieces will move before the draft.
Yeah, and it sounds like from pick 2 to pick 10, they're all available right now if you want them. Certainly Dallas. Houston doesn't want another young guy. Portland either wants to trade for a veteran or bring in or get more picks. So, it could be a really fun, a lot of moving pieces, exciting draft night, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, and that's next Tuesday, right?
That's next Tuesday.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Well, we got a shout out to the Vegas Golden Knights. We got to switch to hockey, so
yeah,
dominated 4-1 win against a team that looked like it was a team of destiny.
Yeah,
they kept winning in close games and overtime games and game sevens, and the Vegas team just seemed to pull it all together. But that was a massive blow with losing Kachuk.
Oh yeah, and he played half a game with a cracked sternum and then just couldn't go in the last game. So. Yeah. And we talked about it again before we got on the call about, what the NHL does to set up new franchises is really great. They basically fast forward your, into like 10 years into the future, if you will, right?
At least, I think they give you at least a 5 or 6 year head start.
Yeah. It feels to me it's always...
Get the Kraken in year 2 was in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I guess, like I said...
won their first series.
Yeah. And if you're trying to ingratiate yourself into a new city, and especially into American city in your hockey, it's really important to do that. To just, get that buzz and excitement from day one and not, here's a new team, it's exciting for half a season, and then it's like, well, how long are they going to suck? Whereas, but at the same time, it feels like just a huge advantage. Like you said, there's teams that haven't won in 30 years that don't, they are never, you basically get everybody's, second or third best player you get to choose from in the entire NHL and the first pick in the draft. Yeah. So you can just incredibly jumpstart that franchise.
Right.
But again, congratulations to Vegas and all those fans, and hopefully they keep, they make Vegas a new hockey hotspot.
Yeah, I think they've done really well. So kudos to them. I liked how that's played out. Brief shout out to my LA Angels, who are about 5 games out of first place now, which I think is very interesting. It's about time with all the talent they have and all the payroll they have. Shout out to the Oakland A's fans for coming up with a reverse boycott.
Yeah.
27,000 last night screaming, sell the team, sell the team.
Yeah, that was...
At the same time that was going on, the Nevada legislature approved $300 and some million for a new stadium. It has to go to the next step now. So it looks like that's a fait accompli.
It was cool to see, though. And again,
cool. The people that love that team love that team. It's a shame they have to watch them in such a terrible facility.
It's a shame too because there's like a Simpsons joke where Homer is a giant fan of the '74 A's. I don't know
Yeah, it was
why.
a good team too.
Yeah, but it's like I mean, you figure that's 50 years ago. There's a
Yeah,
memorable team from the A's, and it's like, and they're. It's not like you're moving the Memphis Grizzlies or the Toronto Raptors. You're moving a storied, you know, the Moneyball teams, like the Giambis, like the Zito Mutson or Holder. I mean, like that's a storied, moving to a different state. It's pretty crazy, right?
and it's the fourth. It will be the fourth city for that franchise since its inception, as the Philadelphia Athletics.
Yeah,
Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland, and now Las Vegas.
yeah. But I mean, the last 50 or something years in Oakland, and like I said, I
Yeah,
mean,
oh yeah, 60 years.
when your reference on The Simpsons is a '70s Oakland A's team that Homer somehow was a fan of, like,
Yeah,
I mean, that's deep rooted fandom, and you're just gone. But like,
shout out to the 8 teams in the College World Series. I don't know if you saw the highlight of how Stanford got in. Did you see that?
I did not.
Uh, Bottom of the ninth, 2 on, 2 out. The guy hits a fly ball. Nobody sees the fly ball. It falls in. They win the game. And they said it was like that time of night on the West Coast where it was difficult to see, difficult to pick up the ball. Nobody saw it. I mean, just literally everybody, the infielders are kind of running out there. The outfielders are stopped with their hands out, not knowing where the ball is. And you watch the ball just hit like an innocent ball.
That's a crummy way to lose a game.
It is a crummy way to lose the game. But some really good team. Wake Forest looks like a really good team, the number 1 seed. Florida's the number 2 seed. They look very strong. Tennessee looks good. Oral Roberts is like the team of the child team, the lucky team. So we have to see how they play out. So a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of teams you expect to be there that were seeded didn't make it. So we'll see. Virginia's got a very good team there in it. So it'll be fun to watch. That starts Friday.
Yeah, that sounds good. I saw something interesting with, I think it was, I always hate giving props to the wrong person, but Colin Cowherd was talking today, right?
Okay.
Are you aware of the Stephon Diggs situation?
I'm aware that he showed up today and practiced.
Yeah, but he was upset, and it seems like he's not upset so much with, he was yelling at Josh Allen at the end of the game. And he seems to be upset with the coaching and the way he's being utilized, which is not unlike most wide receivers, because he's already one of the highest paid wide receivers. He just got a new contract, so it's not money, right? But he was pointing out.
I don't know if it's not money or not, but
Yeah.
let's
Assume it's not money
hopefully say it's not money.
for the sake of his argument. But he was pointing out that he just feels like defensive-minded coaches typically have a lot of problems with their offensive personnel, and that given this league, and he did throw Tomlin under the bus a little bit and said, you look at Tomlin, it's a decade now of, trying to fix the offensive line, trying to fix the offense. They have one of the highest paid defenses. You get guys like upset like Antonio Brown and people like that, and it's just, that it's an offensive league, and you probably need an offensive head coach. That was his thesis. Like an Andy Reid and those guys that, and the Sean McVays, the guys that can relate to,
It sounds like you might be trying to talk his way out of Buffalo.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, as we know, receivers they like the ball, they like money. So, but the other interesting thing in football this week was Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris rang in and said he'd support the union. Saquon Barkley, you obviously got Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott. The running backs are in a very weird position, right?
Yeah.
It's a short shelf life position. Like typically,
They take a lot of punishment.
a lot of punishment. I mean, I think the average career of a running back is something like 2-point-something years. And typically, it's pretty rare. You've got to be an incredible talent. And even then, they don't want to give, I think less so every year. You're not going to get that big contract, the second contract, right?
It's rare that you're going to get a big second contract, yeah.
Right. And I think there are, exceptions like, Christian McCaffrey, who is, a hybrid. And that's what...
Zeke Elliott had a big second contract.
Yeah, and it didn't seem to, bode that well. And obviously, with the Steelers, like I said, if you watched the Steelers play last year and you took the names and numbers off the jersey, you could make a case a lot of times that the undrafted guy from Oklahoma State, Jalen Warren, would have been the first round pick, and Najee would have been the guy they picked up late, right?
Yeah.
And I know that's
Jalen played really, really well.
and it's circumstantial, but like depending on the defense, the time of the game. I mean, there's so many things that can impact your running success. But it's an interesting thought because you're putting your body and your somewhat parts of your life on the line because you could potentially shorten your life by playing football is what science seems to say, right? And if you're a running back,
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah,
it's looking more and more like you are less likely to get it. I mean, the numbers, and just not even the numbers, but it seems like even the eyeball test just points out like we can replace you every 4 or 5 years and we're probably better off. And what do you do if you're running back, I guess? We saw what Le'Veon Bell did. It didn't end up working. Josh Jacobs is holding out. Saquon Barkley is holding out. But meanwhile, you got guys like Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette all sitting on the free agent wire.
I mean, they're holding out, and the offer on the table was 10.1.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to recoup 10.1.
No. But it just feels like it's one of those sort of sad, I don't know.
It's a combination of the ego, the agent, and the posse.
Yeah, and just like I said, the reality of football where it's a replaceable position, and the lifespan of is it we can run you into the ground for 4 years where you probably deserve to be paid, but we know that you're not going to be able to finish out the rest of this contract and with your legs and your body because you've taken too much punishment. So it's like I've given you all I could, but I'm not going to be rewarded for doing so.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, you owe me.
Yeah, which like I said, it's. I don't really. I mean, I just think it's more of a bummer than anything else, I guess.
No, it is, but it's maybe something's going to come about, and guys like McCaffrey are going to leave, but he gets hurt all the time, so
yeah,
you can't say. I mean, it's a change of style, change of offense. I don't know. I don't think I'd be throwing my head coach under the bus saying maybe we need an offensive coach. I mean, I don't think that's the way to go.
No, I don't think that's helping.
I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy. Josh Allen came out in favor of him, but hey, is what it is. I mean, he had a year, and people, in reality, people figured him out toward the end of the year, and they weren't letting him get that free release, and they weren't letting. He's a little guy, and they.
Oh, you're back to Diggs, yeah.
So his productivity went down.
It did. It did. There's no question about it. Yeah, but I mean, it is an offensive league where you got to score points and create an offensive,
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. But again, at the same time, one of the guys that they point out, it's a little bit like, back to the beginning when we're talking about either Jokic or Steph Curry, like game-changing players, like it's easy to be an offensive-minded coach when you have Patrick Mahomes.
True.
Like sometimes.
And it should be easy for your Josh Allen too.
Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of you have the best player and your chess piece and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know.
But we still get D-Hop sitting out there too, so we get a wide receiver.
Yeah, he spent 2 days with the Patriots though, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. And if he's,
we don't even know what he's going to be like.
No, like I said, 31, an injury suspension, and a PED suspension. So, and again, the anonymous GM quote, for whatever that's worth, around the world is just that while D-Hop still has elite hands, and he'll contest through catches, that he hasn't gotten a lot of separation in the last couple of years, which makes him, maybe he's your big slot as opposed to, and then you worry
We'll have to see where he gets picked up. He'll get picked up, there's no question.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
I think he's going to have to do an Odell Beckham 1 year, prove it, and then hopefully, if he's really good, maybe you can get like a 2-year with a fake 3-year at the end of it or something.
You've already brought up the age.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, he might get a 1 year, might get another 1 year somewhere else.
Yeah. But if he goes and just balls.
It's the realities of pro sport.
It is.
You got a lifestyle, and you should get all you can while you can. And nobody will begrudge you getting all you can while you can. But it's just harder for that. The while is getting harder and harder.
Yeah, it really is. And again, it does seem like when you look at the NFL and the NBA, it seems like there's a giant influx of talent right now. Like you're always going to have your superstars, and you're always going to have your, your great quarterbacks, your elite quarterbacks. But it feels like at every other position, there's just a lot of people for those spots, right?
There are.
And you look at the NBA.
Guys, the Steelers have Hakeem Butler and those other guys coming up.
Yeah.
That will take a minimum veteran contract and be happy to get it.
Yeah. Because like I said, when you look at the NBA, like every team has good players right now. Like that wasn't the case in the 90s. It wasn't the case in the 80s. I don't think it definitely wasn't the case in the early 2000s, but it's clearly the case now, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a question, can you keep them all?
Yeah. And you can't keep them all. But I mean, like, just that influx of, talent, European talent and world talent. And it just, yeah. It's crazy. Would you want to talk Bill Walton since we started with Jokic and that's sort of natural?
I do want to talk about that. The 30 for 30, 4-part luckiest man on earth was an extremely well done Bill Walton documentary with interviews for Bill Walton, people he played with, great footage of Bill Walton playing with the Celtics, and great interviews with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale. I mean, really put Walton's career in perspective. And the reason I think it was interesting timing is, he's a great passer, just like Jokic.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great passer and a great scorer and a great rebounder. And so, I mean, just the injuries just derailed his career.
They did.
But, I mean, it was fun watching the highlights. It was fun watching the interviews. And then he was a very different person. He was
much like Jokic.
Treated who he was.
Yeah.
And I told you offline that I did not know that he had been suicidal because of the injuries. That in the pain and the injuries that he became, had really given serious thought to ending it. And I didn't know that. And I think he really comes across very, very genuine. The people that talk about him, the players he played with, the opponents he played against them, really complimentary. It was a very interesting portrayal. And I think I'm going to give a lot of credit to Bill Simmons because I know how much Bill Simmons loves basketball.
Yeah.
And he was the producer. And I think it was, when you say 4 episodes, that's 4 hours. That's a pretty long documentary.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it was not a long documentary. It was perfect. It moved. It was insightful. It was interesting. No surprises. I mean, he addressed everything in his life, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just, just how different he is. I mean, he's just a different dude.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And, like I said, with Bill Simmons, I was like, anytime he has a basketball opinion, I tend to listen to it. In my industry, film and TV, he seems to have the learning capacity and understanding of a cat. So I don't listen to much of his TV and film stuff.
I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, but the basketball stuff is out, top notch.
But it's done. I mean, you can stream it now anytime. I mean, I would absolutely, if you're a basketball fan, if you're a fan of UCLA, a fan of the 70s, a fan of the 80s, a Trailblazer fan, whatever you are, watch it. And, he walked away from a lot of money that the Clippers owed him just because he didn't want to beat them. And so he went from having all this guaranteed money to signing it away to go play with the Celtics. I mean, he was broke a couple different times.
Yeah. But he's done well.
A broadcasting job. He was a stutterer all of his life. It's an amazing story.
That's good. I did finish Flicker in the Dark. That's my entertainment moment. The novel.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. I mean, because at least it had one thing I didn't see coming, which I appreciate. I think, my whole life, based on you, we've been big readers, and we read a lot of crime fiction, I would say, mysteries. So at a certain point, you can kind of see all the pieces coming together. But there was one nice piece in this one that I didn't predict, and it was nice. So,
okay.
I would read it.
I also just finished a book. I finished Once in a Great City, a Detroit story by David Moranis. And I usually don't read much nonfiction.
Okay.
But this was a really interesting take because it dealt with Detroit from like 63 to 66. So it dealt with the introduction of the Ford Mustang. It dealt with civil rights. It dealt with Motown music, and put it all together in a very good story about where Detroit was, and a failed Olympic bid, which I never knew about.
No.
But it really, really well. Dave Moranis is a great writer.
And Detroit's an interesting city.
And for me to read that much nonfiction, I just don't usually do it. I mean, usually looking for escape.
As am I. And sadly, the only time I've been to Detroit was for, I mean, A, it was a great Super Bowl with you and Mom, and it was fun to watch, but it was a sad look at a city. So,
Yeah. I know Dan Gilbert's trying to breathe a lot of life back into it. But interestingly enough, also in this book, that in the 60s, they were predicting the decline of Detroit.
oh,
And people didn't pay attention to it. And guys were talking about population decline and why it was going to decline and where the migration was going to be, and they're spot on. But really, really interesting.
yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
We are recording this early because I'm going to go on vacation, but we just figured there was so much sports talk, we'd record early. So I haven't had a moment to have any food moments, I don't think.
I did have a food moment. My food moment was I decided to treat myself on Gold Belly,
Okay.
and it came yesterday from McLoon's Lobster Shack in Maine.
I
So
see.
we had lobster rolls last night for dinner,
Nice.
and they were outstanding. I mean, McLoon's is this, literally the boats pull in, and they cook the lobster, and you sit at a picnic table and eat it. It's that fresh. So they advertise on Gold Belly that the lobster I got today or yesterday was picked on Monday and shipped out Monday night.
That's crazy. I mean, it's awesome, but
delicious.
yeah.
Split top hot dog buns, sea salt butter. Just awesome. Expensive. If you go there and buy a lobster roll, it's $25 or $30. If you buy it through Gold Belly, it's probably $35 to $40.
Okay.
It's a lobster roll. It's a really good lobster.
Well, hopefully, in my trip to Russian River and a little bit of San Francisco, I'll have a food moment next week.
Yeah, hopefully you will. I hope you have a couple great food moments.
I'm hoping, yeah. Or at least a vacation moment, which would be something else to talk about. But
All right, everyone. Well, enjoy the College World Series. Maybe get back in a little baseball with the Angels or whoever your favorite team is. Get ready for the draft next Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And follow the flurry of potential trades.
And get ready for some football in only 90 days.
Yep, it's coming up.
All right.